Hey everybody, welcome back to Bree's Toys. My name is Stephanie Bree, and I'm doing another topic video this week. I did 3 toy videos this weekend, and I wanted to do 2 topics. Not because I'm running out of toys. I want to be clear. I have plenty of toys. New toys, in fact. I've got like 7 toys that I bought in the last month. I haven't done videos on yet. But I'm saving them because each one of those is specific to a micro collection. And I want to do those as a collection. So I don't want to just show off one figure that's a piece of a bigger puzzle. So I wanted to say that up front. As the title suggests, we're the modern Gobots. I could do a top 25 vintage or retro toy lines that I'd like to see remade or brought back to life. And I probably will still do that. But instead of doing a list of toy lines and talking about them for 2 or 3 minutes, I figured I would do a deep dive on the ones I want the most and get into why I want that toy line to come back, what I'd like to see in a modern toy line of that franchise if it does come back, and who I think they should give the license to if they're not going to do it themselves. Some of this is going to be fantasy based on I don't know who has the IP. So this is just going to be me, pulling shit out of my ass. And some of it's going to be, hey, there's no excuse for this to not exist. And Gobots is one I firmly believe there's no excuse for there not to be Gobots on the shelf. And the reason I say that, I know a little history of Gobots. I know the original Tonka Gobot toy line was an import of Machine Robo from Bandai. And I do know Hasbro cannot make toys based on the Machine Robo toys. I know this. You know this. Everybody knows this. This is very common knowledge among toy fans. If you're watching this, I assume you have this knowledge because you're a toy collector. However, Hasbro does own the Gobots trademarks, so they own the characters. They do not own the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. That's Warner Discovery owns that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And that has been re-released on DVD. So it's not like the property itself is 100% dormant. So there's no excuse for there not to be on the toy shelf, either with the Transformers or maybe right next to the Transformers. There's no reason why Hasbro can't sell Gobots when they've got a shit ton of Star Wars and G.I. Joe and Marvel superheroes all on toy shelves. And they're all in separate places. They're spread out far enough from each other in the toy line. They could do the same thing with Gobots. And I think they could do this a couple of different ways. So, Hasbro has used some of the Gobots characters. Mostly what they are is repaints of existing Transformers figures. Usually this is done in the Shattered Glass universe, which is a whole topic I don't want to get into right now. So a lot of times it's just a Transformer repainted into a Shattered Glass version of the Gobot character, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a Shattered Glass Bug Bite, but Shattered Glass Bug Bite is literally just Cliff Jumper repainted, and I already have a Earthrise Cliff Jumper, so it's like I have 2 versions of the same figure. One of them is painted red and called Cliff Jumper, and the other one is painted white and slightly modified and renamed Bug Bite. So I have the Bug Bite figure because Bug Bite was a Gobot, a Super Gobot, in fact, who was the Gobot's counterpart to Bumblebee. And so, yeah, Bug Bite, that one did appeal to me. I And I'm a GoBots fan. I had GoBots before I had Transformers when I was a kid. I had both. Growing up, I watched both cartoons, and as an adult collector, I've got not nearly as many GoBots as I do Transformers, but I have as many GoBots as I do G1 Transformers, easily, because I'm not exclusively collecting G1 toys necessarily. But that's a whole other story for another day. So, what I would like to see Hasbro do is a full proper revival of the GoBots. Now, they cannot make a cycle that transforms into the same style of motorcycle the vintage GoBots did, the original cycle and Super GoBot cycle. They can't do that because Bandai owns the trademark to the tooling of the design of that action figure, and they can't do that. But they could still make a toy that is its robot mode resembles Cykill enough that you could say, oh yeah, that's Cykill. It doesn't have to have the vintage coloring, by the way. I mean, modern Transformers don't always look like the vintage toys. So we don't have to limit ourselves to an orange and red, white trim Cykill. But he could still turn into a motorcycle of any design that has any original design Hasbro can come up with on their own. Now, I imagine one of the potential hang-ups here is Tommy Takara probably doesn't want to step on Bandai's toes by designing GoBots specific action figures when they're already knee-deep in Transformers. And likewise, Hasbro and Tommy Takara probably don't want to cannibalize Transformers sales by giving kids an alternative to Transformers, although it wouldn't matter because they're getting the money either way, because a sale's a sale, you know. If I'm not willing to buy my 25th Optimus Prime, you might as well sell me a Leader 1. And how hard would it be to take a Starscream action figure and retool it and repaint it into a Leader 1? Now, I don't just mean take a Cyberverse Starscream and repaint it Leader 1 colors. I mean give it a new head, give it, redesign the wings a little bit, redesign it a little bit, you could start with the base toy that you have, the existing toy that you have, so you don't have to retool everything, and just make modifications as needed. You could do that. That would save money. Or you could make a Leader 1 that doesn't look anything like the Hanna-Barbera Leader 1 or the, Bandai Leader 1, but still looks enough like Leader 1 that calling it Leader 1 is enough. I think they could also do with reaching out to Netflix and producing a limited 6-episode series of a new animated series based on the GoBots mythos, where again they reimagine it so they don't have to reference Gobotron specifically or Guardians and Renegades. They can come up with either new factions, or they could make it a spin-off of Transformers. For example, these are Autobots and Decepticons who left Cybertron to get away from the... Or not even Autobots and Decepticons, but just other factions of Cybertronians who left Cybertron to get away from the war, and then had differences over how to build a new future, and then started a new war on another planet, and it doesn't have to be Earth. It could be a planet, an Earth-like planet, in a galaxy far away, for example. We don't, I mean, or it can be, I don't know, an alternate universe or whatever. The other thing they could do is they could take toys from the past that haven't been reissued recently and retool those and repaint those into a specific Gobots subline. What I don't want to see is what we got in Generation 2, where we got Transformers with Gobots packaging. I don't want to see that, because that's a cop-out. And we already got that in 1994. We don't need that again. I know that was 30 years ago, but those specific toys have been reissued to death. We don't need another round of Spy Changers. For God's sake. So, I don't know if Hasbro will, and I also don't know if Hasbro legally can, because they own Tonka and they do own the trademarks to the Gobots characters' names. They do not own the designs of the figures; those belong to Bandai, and they do not own the designs of the cartoon; those belong to Warner Discovery by way of Hanna-Barbera. So they would have to redesign all of the toys anyways. And I don't know if it is worth it to do that as a whole separate line versus what they're already doing, which is just repainting Transformers as Gobots characters, which is easier. Except for the fact that they're all shattered glass and they're like $10 more than the exact same figure in the main Transformer line, just because they're Gobot characters, which is like absurd to me, but whatever. It is what it is. So I don't know. Ideally, I think that Hasbro and Tommy Takara and Bandai, all three, need to sit down and come to a licensing agreement where Hasbro or whoever, they could license it to Super 7, they could license it to NECA. They don't have to do it themselves, but they could all three sit down and come up with a licensing agreement that is beneficial to all three parties, that allows, we'll say for the sake of argument, Super 7 to produce a collector's Gobot line that you have to buy from Big Bad Toy Store or HasLab or wherever. That is another route they could go. Now, getting Bandai on board is going to be tricky because, one, they are Hasbro's direct competitor and Takara Tommy's direct competitor. And two, there is the bad blood between those guys and what happened with Tonka and the Gobots in the first place. Because that relationship went south when Hasbro bought Tonka. On top of all that, the other obstacle that gets in the way is Hasbro is in some pretty dire financial straits right now, and I don't know if they're willing to risk launching a third-rate toy line. To be real, that's what Gobots is, in a market that is already over fucking saturated to begin with. We don't need 7 transformable robot toy lines running concurrently. We already have too many Transformers. And what does Bandai do? Macros. We already have too many. Not Macro. Is it Macros? I can't remember what Bandai does. They have a Transformer toy line as well. There's already too many transforming toy robots on the market. We really don't have room for another one. But there is room in the collector market for NECA or Super 7 or somebody else to fill that hole. So I think there is a way for Hasbro and Takara Tomy and Bandai to move forward with a modern Gobots toy line that is targeted towards adult collectors. Because kids, I mean, we're talking about a toy line that died 40 years ago. Kids don't even know what the fuck a Gobot is. But us old timers do. So, I think there's, I mean, if they can bring back fucking G.I. Joe after 30 years, they can bring back Gobots.